With all that in mind, therefore, where does this leave us? What could happen next? The regime still has formidable tools of repression, but it is operating with fewer buffers, fewer allies, and less room for error. Simultaneously, Trump's language has introduced this new variable. As people read his social media posts, some may be imagining American forces landing in Tehran to assist protesters. Now, of course, that isn't a realistic scenario. Short of that, however, there are several potential paths Washington could pursue if it chose to escalate in some way. And these options matter precisely because they sit between the threshold of overt military intervention. Let's consider them one by one. Scenario 1, targeting Iran's repressive machinery. Now, the most direct option would be targeting the regime's internal institutions of repression, not the Iranian state as a whole, but the specific organs that enforce control. That include things like the law enforcement forces, the IRGC's headquarters in Tehran, the Ministry of Intelligence, and the Basij. This does not necessarily mean conventional military strikes. It could involve cyber operations, as we saw with Stuxnet in 2009, designed to disrupt command and control, surveillance, or coordination between security units. One particularly sensitive pressure point is, of course, the communications. Offensive cyber operations are relatively easy to do, but could target the regime's ability to shut down internet access, including interference with Iran's communication and related state infrastructure. That would therefore directly affect the regime's ability to isolate protesters, to control the narratives, and coordinate the repression. Option 2, a second scenario, would be what some people describe as creative declassification. What this means is that you release intelligence about elite corruption, internal fractures, or the operational structure of Iran's repressive institutions. Not in a scattershot way, if you know what I mean, but selectively, to undermine regime cohesion and legitimacy, done just enough that it can create an impact, but not enough that Iran can blame the Americans. A bit of that plausible deniability from the other way around. Information operations of this kind are designed less to trigger immediate collapse than to accelerate distrust inside elite circles between the regime, society, and lead to a more domestic-driven uprising and overthrow. The third scenario would be legal and economic escalation. That, of course, includes more sanctions under existing frameworks such as the Massa Act, alongside additional designations targeting individuals and entities directly linked to repression. Now, while sanctions alone are unlikely to change regime behaviour, they can raise the cost of escalation for decision makers and reinforce internal divisions over who bears the responsibility. And since this all started around economics, targeting that again, or even more, may well be an effective route to consider. Scenario 4, the final one, is most opaque, but it is technically a form of covert action. By definition, this is the least visible and the hardest to assess externally. But historically, this has been one of the tools used by the West, and when it wants to apply pressure without crossing overtly red lines. What matters here is not speculation about specific actions, but the fact that Trump's language implicitly signals that such options are not off the table. And we can tell what he's considering or have been doing in the form of Venezuela, and how he may seek to sort of reapply that to Iran.